球校舎に出るっていう噂。明けない夜数えながら過ぎ去った日思い続けた巡る夢の中消えてゆく影星溢れる血の願い尽きることない後悔の果て可能し渡れるまま愚かな花散る包まれ息吹く永遠の闇冷たすぎてもがくだけの巡りよ枯れないで私たちは美しいまま踊ろうよ線の月閉ざされた目をえぐるようにほのかに濡れ払う恋ざらう落ちて笑う別れ
I called a plumber and they couldn't help me. Oh well. We'll just have to deal with this ourselves. Finish the last chapter. Chapter 7, Utopia. Now this one, chapter 6, the last one, was a pretty interesting one in that it was a follow-up to a chapter 2. So I'm wondering if chapter 7 will follow up on anything. Maybe not. But this, I believe this is the last chapter of this Higanbana visual novel, which is called The First Night. And there is one called The Second Night, and I believe that one may have 7 more. So, without further ado, let's carry on. A lone girl went up the stairs. The gait was slow, step by step, firmly planting her feet on each step. She was slow. Step by step, as if imparting farewells to each step as she went slowly. The girl climbed the stairs. To this girl, each step of the stairway could be climbed up, but there was no going back down. I already have a bad feeling about this. She could hear the energetic voices of the students sweating during their club activities in the schoolyard. However, the inside of school after classes had ended was so silent that even a deep sigh would reverberate and echo. So even though she could hear those distant energetic voices from the courtyard, where she resided inside the school seemed like a different world shrouded in silence. That was how far she was separated from them. And it told her that they were in a world she could never cross back into again. She finally came to a halt at the top floor of the rising staircase, and there, the door to the rooftop. That dead-end place known as the rooftop was her last stop. But she believed that it was the point of a new departure. The girl's arms were painfully wrapped in bandages. Although difficult to make out beneath the shadow of her skirt, even her legs had traces of terrible lingering scars. Those scars weren't caused by bullying or by accident. She wanted all of them, and she inflicted them upon herself. Because, when she'd inflict these large wounds, she knew that she could temporarily escape this complicated, frustrating world. Home, school, both were complicated. No, the world itself was complicated. Yeah, I'm not arguing with that. Everyone was foolish, stupid, and it's pointless to live in ignorance like idiots. Why had someone intelligent like her been born into a world like this? In the end, she couldn't understand that. and so the girl held no sadness at all in her expression. But what she did have was contempt and pity for all the humans in this world, but most of all, anger. For her unique soul, being born into the wrong world, a world like this, she overflowed with anger toward the heavens. For her, everything she couldn't understand about this incomprehensible world was frustrating. Even worse, her parents, teachers, and her classmates, unable to understand her intelligence, treated her the same as everyone else. Before long, she could no longer stand breathing the same air as they did. And so she learned to hurt... Is that a translation issue? I don't know. And so she learned to hurt myself. Never had a sentence that switched perspective halfway through, but okay. Being sent to the infirmary and hospital for severe wounds offered her a moment of protection. And those hospitals and infirmaries were able to somewhat recognize the value of her existence. So they would give her the appropriate treatment. As she was repeatedly doing this, she started seeking a way to really hurt herself. Finally, she reached it today. When her treatment at hospitals and infirmaries ends, once again she is thrust back into that irritating world. So she sought a wound that would never have her sent back out again. She understood that it probably wouldn't stop at just a wound. However, that was convenient, because it meant that things would end and she would never again return to this frustrating world for all eternity. Injured or worse, either way was fine. Then in her own way, a calm expression rose to her face. Heading out onto the rooftop, the sharp, open air violently scattered her hair with a gust of wind. She could see the other students out doing their club activities, sweating it out in the courtyard. Idiots. Nothing but garbage. Every single one of them. Those simpletons with their minds in the gutter flocked and laughed, spread their vulgarity, and sneered at me. You should all die. And when you die, maybe you'll realize how great I am, and then realize how different my existence is to all of you. But then my brilliant mind tells me, what's wrong isn't this world nor these people. What's wrong is that I was born here. This is a world where vulgar beings live, and by a mistake from the heavens, I was allowed to be born into this world where I do not belong. In other words, the fact that I am here, that's what's wrong. The girl spits out some saliva. I know the feeling. She climbs and then sits on top of the fence. From here, if I take off just like swinging from a swing, I'll release myself from this repulsive world. Well then, come on. A voice whispers. That voice that offered to save me from this world filled with pain whispers again. Are you scared? The voice laughs, daring me on. I'm not afraid or anything like that. I abandoned those kinds of feelings long ago. Even if I see tomorrow, it's because I have to live in this ugly and ridiculous world that nothing else can scare me. Compared with going back again to that classroom filled with idiots I despise, something like this is... Stop! Think it over! Killing yourself isn't going to solve anything! I heard that voice come suddenly from behind me. Who? I should be the only one on the roof. That voice wasn't like the voices I could hear with my ears that led me to where I am today. It was the voice I could hear only in my mind. Despite that, I knew that the owner of that voice was there. Oh, it's Marie, thank you. I turned around, and I saw a timid-looking girl gazing up at me as I sat on the fence. Please come down from there. It's dangerous up there. Ordering me to get down from here, she reiterates her irresponsible words. I've had enough orders. Just how many insipid, meaningless orders from people like you do you think I've had to listen to? I've had enough. I won't listen to what anyone has to say anymore. Please, don't jump! After all, if you're prepared to die, there are plenty of things you can do. Huh? I spat dumbfounded at this girl with glasses and a plea. If I'm prepared to die, there are things I can do? The hell do you mean things I can do? Well, there isn't. There's nothing. There is nothing left in this world that I want. But I need something. A world that understands my intelligence and nobility. And that isn't here. Therefore, the only thing I should do has been made clear. And that's that I should leave this world I don't belong in as quickly as possible. Leave? You mean die? I'm not dying. I'm just moving from this world of fools to a place more appropriate for me. The voice told me how to cross into that world. The voice. It's what invited me here, and it's the only thing that understands me. That voice just wants you to die. You're being deceived. Don't avert your eyes from the truth. Fight it. Don't misunderstand death as your only way of finding peace. And who are you? You, someone who was freed by death. I knew. The girl recklessly standing up and involving herself by telling me not to die was actually not of this world. How funny. I've heard of gods of death, but this is the first I've seen of one saying live. It's true, I might already be dead, but I mean, it's not like I've been set free or anything like that. That you are in this world. Oh yeah, that you are in this world, even after death, just means that this world is suitable for you. For a fool with an inferior mind like you, it's quite suitable, wouldn't you say? I'm different. I am intelligent and noble. That's right, I am a genius. Since I'm so different, I just cannot be understood in this foolish world. Yes, this is a world of black and white television. What? Since the television is black and white, no matter what is projected, it all comes out monochrome. For a full-color being such as myself, I can only see black and white in this world. There is a high-class world for me. Death will take me to that world. It is only my ferry. But... Later. Bye-bye. Well then, take me to that world that suits me. Wait! Ah! The girl atop the fence spreads both her arms and leaps into the sky. Ooh. She doesn't look below her. While looking at the sky above, she flies into that deep blue world. It has to be said that Ryukishi has something about this particular kind of suicide, jumping from a rooftop, because it features in Umineko as well. As you see, Angie, as she's introduced, doing this exact motion, and she actually does jump from the roof and survives. But sure, or at least she probably wanted to fly into that sky like that. However, yeah, that's not a good way out. In an extremely natural way, she fell straight down. It wasn't in dramatic slow motion or anything of the sort. Leaping from that fence with a whoosh, she was hit suddenly with a crack and splat. In the span of 1 or 2 blinks of an eye, the whole thing was over quickly. The most important event to her was something pointless to the rest of the world. From the disfigured corpse of the girl, slowly a red flower of blood bloomed and began to spread. No one in the courtyard realized the fact that she had fallen into a hidden thicket. And from the damp growing puddle of blood, slowly countless buds began to spring up. Oh, yes. And those buds slowly spread and opened into large characteristic flowers. Sucking the blood dyed a deep red, they were Higanbana. One after the other, the Higanbana began blooming en masse. It was as if it were drinking from the corpse. And from the thicket of Higanbana, a crimson arm silently sprung up. It became a form that embraced her corpse. It was the yōkai whose name was the same as the Higanbana that were blooming. You've waited quite a while, truly, Higanbana laughed, while holding the corpse of the girl tightly, as though imagining of a reunion with her dear friend after 100 years. An affectionate expression appeared on her face. Finally, from the corpse's mouth, slowly, something like a pale smoke came out. It was the girl's soul that had been freed from its cage of flesh. A miserable soul that despised this foolish world and believed that there would be another more suitable world for her. With her slender white fingers, Higanbana tampered with the soul that attempted to ascend into heaven as though teasing it. Oh my, what a truly miserable, shabby soul. It's really, truly to my liking. Looks like it really went and turned itself into a real delicacy. Struggling to rise into heaven, the soul tried to escape from the girl's toying fingers. It was exactly like playing with a delicate balloon after the helium had all come out. Higanbana-san, please forgive her. Well, if it isn't Marie. How do you do? It's just that I feel sorry for that girl. I'm sure someday she will realize the error of her ways. So please, forgive her. No way. How long do you think it took to raise a soul this delicious? Believing she surpassed the rest of the world with flying colors without any basis, without any great effort on her part, and just cursing the world. With a never-wavering belief that she was all-knowing and pure, I've discovered a beautifully foolish human. That's a cuisine that takes a lot of time and effort to prepare, you know? That was because you tempted her. Tempted? Who? Me? You've got me all wrong. I was worried about her, and I taught her how to be free. Besides, Marie, you thought you could try and talk to her? This girl is truly arrogant, and wouldn't concern herself with trash like you, a conceited and excessively foolish girl. She sneered at the stupidity of the world while ignoring her own. True, she was arrogant. The reality she believed, where she was almighty, didn't exist. She was not as wise as she believed she was, nor was she as intelligent. What happened was that others could not see the way she saw herself. So as a self-defense mechanism, she would say it was just because she was better than them. So perhaps it was she who was foolish. She was a foolish girl whose own opinions made her lack the power of being understood by those around her. I only taught that girl the joys of pain. I taught her the way to the infirmary, the way to the hospital, and I taught her that self-mutilation could become an escape for a brief time. And I taught her that to choose death is to liberate herself from everything and the rest. And rest, I bet. Slowly and carefully, I prepared her delicate spirit and invited her to die. Finally, the girl threw her life away with her own hands. The yōkai that invited her was expecting her below, with her mouth open wide. That was the dancing Higanbana, the third-ranking school yōkai's hunt. Higanbana stopped fiddling with the spirit that had been trying to flee to heaven with a giggle. Being removed from the trap, as though it were relieved, the soul slowly started ascending to heaven. A soul finally may understand. Death would not be a freedom, nor a solution. And I thought that she would... Who's talking? Is this Higanbana? Whatever. And I thought that she would want to appreciate how so very precious life is. At Marie's prayer, Higanbana laughed. That's something you should realize while you're still living, right? Don't you think that it's unfair to understand that because you're dead? Marie could not respond. Now, this girl whose name she didn't even know, who had just come to appreciate the gift of life, had no way of taking it back. But even still, at the very least, she had wanted her to understand. However, it was all as Higanbana said. It was already all too late. If there was such a thing as rebirth, I would have hoped that in her next life she would live life to the fullest. However, Marie, who'd already passed on, knew reincarnation doesn't exist. When someone dies, that is the end to everything. So her soul has no need to understand, appreciate, much less rest in peace. Does it? That's concerning. Then all at once, the thicket of Higanbana, like serpents, they shot out quickly and captured the soul that was trying to escape to the heavens, and swallowed it in the mouths of their petals. I could see what looked like countless snakes imitating flowers leaping upon their prey all at once. The foolish and pitiful soul was greedily torn apart and swallowed by the flower's petals. Thank you for the meal, foolish girl. Sorry, but I don't even remember your name. Marie, this is the story of a foolish girl suffering the consequences of her own actions. I only put an end to it. Yōkai tempt humans and eat the fools who listen to us. Do you have a problem with that? No, I don't. Yeah, no you don't. Higanbana's kill was as something for a yōkai, something filled with love and affection. Higanbana only whispered. This pitiful girl was able to defy death up until the very end by her own will. In regards to this hunt, Marie was left speechless. The moment Marie had realized this foolish girl existed, it was already too late. Although she whispered to her countless times to stop her thoughts of this folly, the words never reached her. If only she had realized it sooner, maybe she could have stopped her from thinking that way. Do you intend to interfere with my hunt? With a smile on her face, Higanbana gave a small threat. However, soon her shoulders shook from her giggling. Oh, it's okay. In our world, there are plenty of times when people go after the same prey. The stronger ones will get the prey. If I am stronger than you, it will be my meal. That's all there is to it. Marie, you're my friend, right? That means I don't hate you, so please feel at ease. Higanbana was clearly in a good mood. She had finally harvested the spoils she had prepared for so long. The flavor of that spirit was most likely exceptional. See you, Marie. Well then, I need to find the next meal. I want to try a frail, bullied kid this time. Someone pitiful who's bullied in their class and has grown tired of living. I'll sweetly whisper to that child and teach them the delight in escaping to the school infirmary. And from then on, I'll slowly invite them to die. I'm sure a pathetic girl like that is here, because this school is so very large and wide. Leaving that as one-way communication, Higanbana casually disappears. After that, not a single Higanbana flower remained. The large flower of crimson blood was all that was stretched out around the unfortunate girl's corpse. There's a lot of death at this school. At my school, we only ever had one death? Yeah. And it sounds bad to say, but it was a kid who was killed. But yeah, that's the only one I can think of when I was at school. It was one kid who got stabbed and died. Was murdered. Apart from that, we never had that many. We didn't have. I don't remember if there was even any suicides at my school. Even if Higanbana hadn't whispered to her, this girl would have followed the same route someday. However, if I had realized it earlier, I might have been able to make sure she didn't leave the straight and narrow. Higanbana will find another miserable victim like her and invite them to die. She even gave advance notice that she's going to find a frail, bullied kid to turn into a prey. I cannot stop Higanbana, but if I find someone likely to be tricked by her first, I may be able to advise them in order to keep them from being misled. Oh, that will be a good one. Death will never be a resolution, nor a liberation. I was unable to help you realize this while you were alive. I'm sorry. Marie shifted close to the husk of the girl and softly stroked her face. She couldn't make that face peaceful, although she was able to at least close her eyes. Then she stood up and raised her eyes towards the enormous school building. She was Marie, the school yōkai of the 8th rank. Meso-san Marie. A girl who passed into death and was able to obtain the lowest seat of school yōkai from a hapless fate. This is a tale of an enormous school, boasting a vast number of classes and students. And this is a tale of the school yōkai and tormented humans that reside within it. Well, you know, with your appearance, you kind of remind me of like an older version of Rika Furude from Higurashi. Well, I suppose it's a bit of a standard design, so yeah. From the moment Yukari Sakaki first knew what it meant to be a bullied child, she immediately became aware that she was a perfect nomination. And from there, she also understood it was something she urgently had to escape. However, she was still very young and did not know how she could go about accomplishing that. So she decided to ask her parents and teachers about it, and this is what they told her. If you retaliate, they'll just keep coming for you. Your bullies think it's funny because you respond, right? Just ignore them. Ignore them. If you do that, they won't bully you anymore. So she obediently believed this and put it into practice. But somehow, it seemed that in order to see results, she had to persevere for a considerable amount of time. She couldn't reap the fruits of that hard work overnight. As a result, today was another day of being a bullied child. Something small hit my head with a pat. Even without looking, I knew what it was. It was a ball someone had torn off their eraser. If I acted like I was going to shake it off, they'd think my reaction was funny. And the bullies would keep hitting me relentlessly. So I pretended I didn't notice it. I could hear giggling voices, as people saw the flecks of eraser stuck in my hair. But if I react, there's no doubt they'd tenaciously bully me even more. So, just like I was told, I ignored them. I pretended I didn't notice. With countless flecks of eraser spread throughout my hair, the whole time, I pretended I didn't notice and endured it. When I had to use the bathroom, I decided to use one that was far away from the classroom. Because if I used one close to the classroom, I would bump into one of the bullies. Even though they were only persistent in class, if I were to run into one of them in this isolated place, I didn't even want to think about it. So I disliked the restrooms close to class. And just like this, I would go to a different school building and use a different year's bathroom. It's not like I would decide which year or which class's bathroom I would use. However, the far classroom had a peculiar air that seemed territorial. Because when I arrived, it seemed like I was visiting a foreign land. There wasn't even the slightest hint of a warm, welcoming atmosphere. Who is that? She's an upperclassman, right? What's she doing here? But if I go into a store like this and close the door, then I can isolate myself from everything. When I'm here, the bathroom stall fits the definition of a sanctuary. Furthermore, there wouldn't be any deck brushes or buckets tossed at me either. I kneeled down as though I'd been drained of all strength, and with a small shake of my head, I covered my face with both hands. It wasn't because I wanted to cry. I just wanted to make my face warm by covering it with my hands. My completely chilled face almost felt like the same as my heart. It was cold and hurt so much. so I only wanted to warm it a little bit. Why? I wonder why my life at school is like this. I didn't know. I wondered, why do we go to a place like school? To be taught things? To practice things like multiplication and division? Or how to read and write kanji? I think we could do that kind of thing at home. Some people do. Why do we have to learn this in school? I wonder why I have to go to school. I don't want to go. No, I don't want to be. Then it won't hurt. The pain in my heart would stop. Once the day is over, I can run away from school for a short time. But when the sun rises, another day will come. I can't escape. I cannot escape from the school that torments me. Is there no other way? Somehow, isn't there anywhere I can run to? I know. There's nowhere. It would be so nice if I could run away. By slipping into a wooden pipe, or hiding away in a mountain of tires, just like hide and seek. If I get seriously injured, and I am hospitalized, I wonder if I can escape. Huh? Just then, I felt like somebody was laughing at me from somewhere. But there's no way. I don't feel the presence of anyone else in the bathroom. There's no way I heard anything, like a laugh. However, I'm sure I heard it. I feel like I did. It was a feeling just like somebody had heard the voice of my heart. And sneered. You can get out of here if you hurt yourself. Then there was a mocking laughter as if to say, understand now? That someone continued giggling at me. But that might be it. Even if I run, even if I hide, I can't escape from school. If I want to get away, then I'll obviously have to pay some kind of price for it. Pay a price? Injuring myself might be what I have to do. I compare that with how ready I was to pay the price for it. It would let me get away from the school for a little while. Just a little while? Well, no matter what price I pay, won't I have to go back to school sometime? Then I'm fine paying whatever price just so that I never have to return to school again. As long as my body is willing, I'm prepared to pay the greatest price. I was going to say highest, but whatever. But that's death, isn't it? The first time I spoke, I felt the weight of that forbidden word. If I die, I won't have to come back to school. I'll be free from school forever. I became aware at last that my fingertips were shaking. Those fingers were entwined with sticky sweat drops that bulged at my fingertips. I wasn't shivering from the fear of death. I realized I was equating my own death with freedom from school, and that made me tremble. I learned somewhere, people shouldn't die. Someone said it. I hear it a lot on television. It's even said in dramas. Having that repeated daily for so long. At some point, those foundationless values had been instilled in me. People mustn't take their own lives. This is the first time that value wavered for me. In other words, that meant, for the first time, I had realized that this concept uniformly spoken around the world was a lie. I knew that the world itself was made of lies. This tightly packed bathroom stall with 4 walls. When I'm not there to see it, just how many lies and how much ridicule fills the outside of it, I wonder. That girl, she still comes to this bathroom, huh? Isn't she from a different grade? Why does she come to this bathroom? It seems she's being bullied. Isn't she always cowering? She's been in that stall forever, hasn't she? It's like she's making it her own room or something. If she likes the bathroom, then she should just live on the toilet, yeah? A voice like that shouldn't sound like laughter. Everything was my delusion. As if I couldn't forgive my mind for birthing the idea, I gripped my head as if tearing, beating, and smashing it. It was as if my skull was fracturing with a crackling pain. It made sense. I was gripping my head, thinking to break it. If I die, I can get away from school. No matter how far I run, no matter where I hide, it's the only escape from this inescapable nightmare. I'll die. If I die, I can escape from here. It's useless. Death resolves nothing and offers no freedom. I had thought those tormenting words and voices of laughter were somehow my own delusions. But this voice was different. I couldn't hear it with my ears, but somehow I heard it clearly. And that voice whispered to my heart and kindly gave me a clear response to my words that sought death. Those warm words someone had prayed to reach me were absolutely not from my imagination. Startled, I looked at the area around me. However, all that surrounded me were the white walls of the stall. With my eyes open, I can't hear the voice. With my eyes open, I couldn't sense it at all. But if I close my eyes, I really can hear a voice. No, I even felt as if someone was right next to me. Could it be a ghost or a yokai? Now that I think of it, didn't I hear in some bathroom there was this yokai known as Meso-Meso-san? But wasn't that in the old school bathrooms? No, if it's a bathroom in the school, she might be able to appear anywhere. Because I'm thinking of such a bad thing like killing myself, I might have drawn a yokai to me. In a moment, I thought I might be cursed and killed by a yokai. Instead of being afraid, rather, I was a little anxious. I was slightly anticipating the freedom that being murdered by a yokai could grant me. But perhaps it wasn't that kind of feeling. I was a little glad that for just a moment, even if it was just in my own mind, someone had given me those words. Who is it? Whose voice spoke with me? Saying that in my mind, once again the voice replied. This time I could hear it. I could hear it clearly. Dying is useless. Please don't think of death as a way to save yourself. Who are you? Where are you talking to me from? Then the owner of the voice became silent. It was obvious it wasn't human. Then it's probably a yokai. Yokai are much stronger than humans and bullies. After all, school for them shouldn't be anything to be afraid of. If only it could triumphantly expound its name. But the owner of the voice, as if it would be ashamed to bring its identity to light, was silent. In a panic, I apologized for what I had just asked. I'm sorry, but you're probably not human. Thank you for speaking with me. It's because I thought if I didn't talk to you, you would have died. Why shouldn't I kill myself? If you die, your mum and dad will grieve for you. Your friends and your teachers too. Do I have friends who would grieve for me if I died? Even when I'm tormented, everyone just laughs. I don't think they'd care, even if I wasn't here. As long as you're alive, there'll be fun things to do. There's nothing like that in school. If you keep going, someday you'll graduate school, you know. Graduate? How many years should I wait here being bullied until then? You see, I used to be bullied, so I really understand how you feel. This was unexpected, because even a yokai who held amazing power had been bullied before. I thought, could it be? I wondered if she was bullied, chose to end her life, and then became a yokai. Wanting to die to become a yokai is useless. I'm sorry. Couldn't I have my revenge on those bullies with the power of becoming a yokai? With those words, she slapped my small hope away. I am a yokai. I live in the night of this school. Does bullying and... Good question. It seems to be true. Does bullying happen in the school at night too? Yes, and it's crueler than it is in the day. Please don't think that if you become a yokai, you won't be bullied by anyone any longer. Just how powerless dead souls are and how cruel the brutality becomes. I don't think you can quite understand that while you're still alive. But by the time you find out for yourself, it's already too late. And especially, souls that choose to end their own lives are a yōkai's favorite food. I've already seen this firsthand. All these souls regret thinking they'd be better off dead. But then it's already too late. They're put through horrific tortures in the abyss for eternity. It seems like I've heard about this before. I feel like during special studies, when a Buddhist priest came for some reason, he talked about something like that. But he couldn't compare with the authenticity of a yōkai who was talking about the exact same thing. Well, then what are you suggesting I should do, yōkai-san? The bullying in the world after death is even more painful. So you're saying for now I should stay here and keep being bullied like this? And until I graduate, during that very long span of time, I should keep being bullied here like this? You have to fight back. Fight? I couldn't do something like that. And if I did something like that, I'll just invite more needless bullying on myself. First, you should fight those whispers of the wicked yōkai inviting you to free yourself through death. Well, I suppose. Then, try asking for help from those around you. Try asking your parents and teachers. Marie, no. Once I had neglected to do that, and I brought everything on myself. Ask for help from my parents and my teachers? Those words put a gash in my heart. It wasn't sadness. It was anger. I asked for help from my parents, from my teachers, and their response was always, ignore them. However, at some point I realized it. I wasn't the one who was ignoring others. Rather, it was my parents and my teachers who were ignoring me. Bullying is bullying because bullied kids speak up about it. Then even if something is being done to those kids, if they hang their heads in silence, it's no longer bullying. So the bullying stops. That didn't solve anything. They said since I'd react, everyone would find it funny and bully me even more. Even though I believed them when they said that. Even though I really tried. No matter how much time passed, it resolved nothing. It resolved nothing at all. In the end, no one could save me. Even though I asked my parents and teachers for help. No one could help me. No one! Oh dear. Marie only hung her head. This pitiful girl, Yukari Sakaki, she tried everything she was supposed to try. Believing the strict advice of ignoring the bullying, she has endured until today. And yet already, her heart was starting to come apart. And then before long, her ears started to receive the sweet whispers of yōkai inviting her to kill herself. No, perhaps it was because she chose to hear them, that she realized that she could escape if she were to die. Marie deeply sympathized with the girl. Yukari Sakaki once was a very average girl that one could find in any class. She wasn't particularly the target of any bullying. Unconsciously, she passed her days in peace as bland as a shade of grey. She was quite an average girl. The assault of sudden misfortunes on her began a year ago. Ooh. Her mother passed away in a traffic accident. That in itself deeply wounded her heart. But for her, the long period afterwards was painful. Her father, as far as she could tell, had lost his spirit. And although he was inefficient at it, he had struggled hard to support both the household and his work. However, he was inexperienced in housework, and coexisting with his work that had been busy from the beginning, started to break her father down more and more. It was always gloomy, and the inside of the house that had become filled with trash and newspapers scattered about had already lost the peace of her family. In the beginning, her father tried his best and helped with the laundry. Yukari also helped, seeing her father was suffering. But then the gloomy atmosphere started to eat at her, and gradually her willpower was snatched away. So she started often wearing the same unwashed clothes, and they gradually started getting dirty. That was pointed out to her by her sharp-eyed classmates, but their words could not reach her worn-out ears. Then one day, Yukari realized. She realized she was being called filthy and foul, and that people in class were talking about her behind her back. After her mother's death, even her father gradually began to get back on his feet. Whatever horrific emotional scars we might have, time will gently mend them. With that, when Yukari Sakaki returned to her former world, at some point she had become a target for the bullies in class. Knowing that much, Marie hung her head. And despite how well she knew Yukari, she had recommended Yukari ask her parents for help, and so she became speechless from her own insensitivity. In the beginning, Marie had thought Yukari was a weak-minded human who was choosing suicide as a simple escape. However, she had completely misunderstood. Since her painful experience with her mother's death, she had recovered and shown courage to return back to her former world. Even so, her own place in the world she had returned to had already disappeared. And yet, she put up with and endured the senseless bullying. She asked her parents and her teachers and others for help, and she strictly adhered to and believed their irresponsible advice to just ignore it. In the end, she was reduced to cowering in the small bathroom stall, tasting her own tears. How could she call her a weak-minded human who simply chose suicide as an escape? Knowing that much, Marie believed it. Yukari, although even she hadn't realized it yet, was truly a strong person. That unfortunate and senseless bullying, those yokai whispers wishing to invite her death, they had crushed what little was left of her heart. If I ignore her like this, there's no way the other yokai will let this unfortunate, tasty-looking girl go. No, there's no way that Higanbana-san will overlook her. I have to save her. She already wanted to be saved by her father and her teachers, and since no one could save her, this time I have to save her. I understand. At a time like this when you can't be saved by anyone, even so, if only there was someone who could save you. I understand that feeling more than anyone. Marie Moria decided. The 8th ranked of the school yokai, Meso-San Marie, decided she would save her. She decided she would save Yukari Sakaki from her torment. It's a good point to save quickly. Watch where you're going! An uproar of laughter follows afterwards. Yukari Sakaki decided to run away at the same time class ended. Someone's gym bag knocked her in the back. Staggering from that, she bumped her head against the wall, and the girls showered her with those words of scorn. They were the ones always finding fault with Yukari. They were her bullies. The entire class bullied her, or perhaps they approved of it. Among them, there was the leader of a particularly persistent, ill-reputed gang. What? If you got something you want to say, then say it. That was clearly meant to provoke her. In response, no matter what she said, she would be ridiculed, or it would just rouse them to bully her even more. So Yukari bit her lower lip, endured her inner emotions, and cooled them. She couldn't even let her eyes meet theirs. In truth, she had to keep moving. If she were to stop here like this, just by turning around even halfway, she would lose that power of ignoring the bullies. And so, without showing them any more of a reaction than that, she quickly left. At her back, snickers, haughty laughs, sarcastic laughs, sniggers, every sort of sneer was tossed at her. I had to keep going. Since I reacted, everyone's amused. I'm glad I kept going after reacting, but how long do I have to keep doing this until I'm saved, I wonder? At that time for Yukari, naturally, there was no answer. No, there was one, and if she had to think of it yesterday, the yōkai told her. But now, Yukari couldn't think of it. Yukari's heart had turned to ice, and as she forced herself not to think of anything, she walks down the hallway. Not in a hurried pace, but as she always does. If they were even to see her running off from the classroom, they might have taken that as her showing them a reaction. When Yukari was gone, the classroom returned to the usual bustle during the break period. Mysteriously, that scene, when Yukari was no longer there, like an optical illusion, it seemed as if the existence of bullying had disappeared entirely. It seemed like an entirely ordinary break. The only one still talking about Yukari was that group of bullies. They were having a friendly chat about how best to harass Yukari next time. It was exactly like this. That bitch, she keeps fucking ignoring us. I am so gonna make her cry. She is seriously unbelievable. Or piss her off, that'd be freaking a riot. She seems like the spazzing type. How about bringing a box cutter? Oh, come on. I'd laugh. That would make me so laugh. I think she should cry. I'd get a real thrill out of seeing her cry. Crying? She has probably already been crying, I tell ya. She's totally a spaz, that girl. I want to see her cry too. Ozaki-kun, what do you think? Being asked that, the eyes of the bullies gather on a lone boy. Even though he was 2 grades above them, he passed for a particularly large physique. The boy called Ozaki was their ringleader. He was the perpetrator who hit Yukari with his gym bag. Me. Either way is fine. But his expression was the opposite of his words. I don't mind if we cut her or if we make her cry. I'm pissed off. That inconsiderate attitude she has, like I'm not even bothered, fucking pisses me off. When he was speaking, like it was a pleasant topic, he grinned wide. To them, bullying Yukari Sakaki was a sport. In sports, it's not all about the result, but it's about enjoying the spirit of the competition. To them, bullying Yukari Sakaki was no different. To them, driving a girl to cry or making them go into a frenzy, whether those things go to plan or betray their expectations, either way is fine. The process itself was truly fun. That is something that they probably knew best, and bullying Yukari Sakaki was just that. To them, it was a game, and because they appreciated it and laughed, even for the entire class, it was a game. She thinks she can just ignore us like that. She should cry because we want her to cry. We'll put an end to her smugness for sure. After all, that girl, her clothes, they're both dirty. Which means she stinks. Since Yukari was wearing the same clothes for a time, it was true they'd gotten dirty. However, that was only temporary. After she recovered from the sadness of losing her mother, she hasn't repeated the same offense since then even once. But because people were saying Yukari Sakaki's clothes were dirty and smelly, no matter what clothes she tried to wear or what fragrance she tried, it didn't matter. The assessment she faced had become exactly that. But hey, Ozaki-kun, don't you think we'll be in deep shit if we take it too far and she writes a will or something? A will? What? No, of course not. For real? Well, I mean, come on. Even during that time with that one girl, she didn't write a will, did she? The bullied kids all met each other's eyes. Ah, they said as they put on expressions like they'd remembered and gestured with a clap of their hands. It was just like they had forgotten what they ate for dinner last night, and their reactions showed that moment of finally remembering it. That's how they treated it. You're right, that did happen. It did. I mean, I'd completely forgotten. She didn't kill herself. It just looked like an accident. Just a simple old accident. She just slipped right off the roof. One of those awful accidents. The teacher even said there was no evidence of her being bullied, right? That's right. That wasn't bullying at all. As officially recognized by the teacher. That's why. There's no way Sakaki's gonna off herself. Even if she dies, it'll just be an accident. There's no way she'll write a will. I guess you're right. I mean, who the hell is bullying Sakaki anyway? We aren't bullying her, right? Of course we aren't. We're so affectionate and loving. The leader Ozaki was mumbling something in slang that only they could understand. And it was a big success, so laughter spread throughout the class. They didn't know what he had said, but it wasn't hard to imagine it was something insulting Yukari Sakaki. Marie was watching the exchange in the shadows of the classroom, her eyes fixed on Ozaki, who was repeating those words ridiculing Yukari. Twilight after school. Most of the students had already gone home, and the ones who had been playing in the courtyard were scrambling to be the first to finish with the cleaning duty. It was that sort of evening. While smacking his lips, Ozaki once again passed under the school gate. His parents were both working and wouldn't be home until late, so it was his daily routine to drop in at the friend's house without going straight home. After that, he'd go back home and wait for his parents while watching TV. As he thought about that on his way home, he noticed he didn't have his key. But I'm sure I had it. Maybe I dropped it at school. That shouldn't have. Going home to an empty house and fishing out his key from his pocket in front of the door would have been normal for Ozaki. But today he was suddenly incapable of such a routine task. He kept smacking his lips over and over again at the small and unexpected misfortune. His key wasn't at his friend's house he'd stopped at. He retraced his steps for the entire day, and the last place he arrived was at the school's gates. There were a lot of periods in just one day at school, after finally being able to leave, having to go through the school gates again. With that thought, he had a terrible feeling, almost like being the only one in the family to draw a terrible luck fortune at the shrine. The campus was dark as far as he could see. It was the world called school that they supposedly spend half their lives. A place they'd attend for several years, a place that even just by looking at it would make them fed up. School. But still, when swallowed by the twilight, the school building and the entrance looked like a scene he had never seen before. Now he had become self-aware. Everything he knew about the school he'd already become bored of was in the daylight. Half of the day was in the light of the sun. The other half was in the dark of night. Stretching inside the darkness, the large entranceway had a gaping emptiness to it. It looked like a gargantuan creature's mouth that would crush and devour a human being. And so Ozaki reluctantly passed through the crevices of its gums into the hatchway. Was my key with me when I was at the shoe rack? Shit, I can't remember. He looked all around the front of the shoe rack, but couldn't find anything that looked like a key. Even after looking under the matting in the rack, he couldn't see his key. If it's not here, he'd have to take off his shoes and slip into his indoor slippers. As far as Ozaki was concerned, doing that was more unpleasant than having to go back through the school gates again after already going home once. He had put on the same slippers just as he had during the daylight hours. However, he did not expect they would be so cold, damp, and this heavy after nightfall. The gloomy hallway of the school building was so long he felt as though it continued for an eternity. In the darkness, a one-eyed monster glared at him with its red eyes shining with displeasure. In the day, it was just a fire alarm he wouldn't even think twice about. The school of the night and the school of the day were very different. Different places, even different dimensions. It was about this time that he recalled the numerous ghost stories about the school at night. The story of a past principal who would kidnap kids, spiriting them away. It said that one of the paintings of the past principals decorating the principal's office would glare and its eyes would shine in the night. Speaking of which, there was a story about the infirmary too. That's right, I just remembered. The curse of the dancing Western doll. An out-of-place Western doll had been set on top of the medicine shelves in the infirmary. If I remember right, they said every night it would start to dance. I wonder if I'll hear some strange sounds or something coming from that pitch-black infirmary. Ozaki thought as he quickly passed the infirmary and dashed up the stairs. Once he had started running, there was no stopping him. He held his breath, and like a bolt of lightning, he shot off until he reached his classroom. And flying into the classroom, he flipped the light switch. The fluorescent lamps made dry buzzing sounds and flickered with blinding light. In the brilliantly illuminated classroom, even though no one was there, to his amazement, it was the same classroom that he knew well. Well, duh, you just turned the light on, you idiot. As for demons ready to devour a foolish child who mistook day for night and attended their school, there wasn't anything like that lying in wait for him. Ozaki started to calm down when he saw such a normal sight. Since he had come from the school entrance to the classroom, he finally realized how much he was sweating and how erratic his breathing had become. Way to lose your cool, Ozaki. The hell are you so afraid of? By provoking and shaming his own cowardice, he persuaded himself that that wasn't who he was. Calming himself, he remembered he had to go find his key and get back home. He would probably get yelled at by a teacher if he was found in class at a time like this. It was stupid of him to lose his key. Not only that, he came to class at this time of night. Worse yet, if he were to get caught and scolded for it, it would be too shameful and he wouldn't be able to stand it. Gradually, as he started to feel himself return to his daylight self, he began to search for his key. But he couldn't find it. In and around his desk, he even checked in other desks, but he couldn't find it. His parents would probably be home soon, and they probably wouldn't leave him outside forever. However, if he lost his key, his parents would be upset with him, for good reason. My parents would always come back wearing exhaustion on their faces, and aside from asking, "Did you finish your homework?" and "Are you ready for tomorrow?" they would say nothing else. Geez, no wonder you're a bad apple. We don't talk much, and I don't even remember the last time we had a real conversation. Even so, after not having talked to them in so long, talking about something like losing the house key, Mum would immediately start shouting and crying. Dad would see that and immediately start beating me. Shit, this sucks. Seriously, where did you go, Key? The fear Ozaki had from being at school at night changed to impatience, and then, when the key refused to show itself, it finally changed into anger. However, regardless of his emotions, without any emotion, his key still could not be found anywhere. I guess I'll honestly ask if anyone has left any lost articles over at the staff room. If I still can't find it, it might be all over. Ozaki thought, slowly leaving the classroom. In his eyes, he saw a light coming from the boys' restroom. The bathroom, huh? I've been in there so many times today. Don't tell me, did I drop my key in the bathroom? If he had dropped his key in the bathroom, no one would have picked it up. If they put their hands on a key like that, they would get germs, and everyone would make fun of them saying, "Get away from me," or something. Because of that, even if someone drops their keys, everyone will look and then pretend they didn't see it. So it's possible it's still in there on the floor even now. If no one picked it up, it wouldn't be in the lost and found. I guess I'll give it a shot. He didn't normally have the habit of talking to himself. However, in this school of darkness, if he didn't at least talk to himself, the silence would become far too chilling. Slowly, he peeked into the boys' restroom. On the floor, there was no silver color indicating his key was there. Even though he thought it was impossible, he still looked at each of the urinals. Mate, if you find your key and it's in a puddle of piss, shame. If it was in some place like that, that would be the worst. My precious key would have been soaking in the urinals all day. It would reek of piss. Once again, shame. Fuck you, Ozaki. It would reek of piss, and no matter how much I'd wash it, there's no way I could get that smell out. And if I walked around with that foul key, there's no telling how many cheers I'd get from tomorrow onwards. They'd be like, ew, it's Ozaki, he smells like piss. That would be the worst. If it was in one of these, that would be the absolute worst. I don't want to find it here. So after checking all of the urinals and confirming that none of them had his key in them, Ozaki felt a slight relief. Suddenly, he was laughed at. With a geh, he was laughed at. Man, that fucking sound effect actually fucking scares me. Directly behind him, some monster was laughing with a geh at his relief. Ozaki choked and stood frozen. His eyes opened wide, and from all the pores on his skin, a foul-smelling sweat suddenly started to gush out. Seeing his figure from behind as he did so, once again, the monster laughed with a geh. This time he understood. It wasn't a laugh. It was a door. Behind him, a large bathroom door, a stall door, made an unpleasant screeching sound. Don't fuck with me. You can't scare me. He said strongly, but his words were shaking. And all that did was remind him once again just how scared he was. Even so, that moment of pleasure when the power of all his fears drained away was indescribably comforting. While bathing in that comfort, Ozaki's eyes locked onto a silver gleam. Huh? It was the key. There was no mistake. It was the key he had long been searching for. Inside the stall, by itself, it had seemed almost as if it was hidden there by a demon in a game of hide-and-seek, and so there it laid. He had no memory of going in here. Then why was his key in a place like this? Perhaps someone saw it, said, "Yuck, disgusting," and then kicked it into the stall. That was a plausible guess. He was lucky that at least no one knew that dirty key belonged to him. He thought to immediately pick it up and head home. Give it a good scrubbing in some water. Thoroughly. But in any case, he was glad he found it. At that moment, he was glad that he came back all the way to school. Oh boy. That second, the world turned pitch black. It seemed as if even time itself had stopped. And as he leaned with his arm extended to pick up the key, for some time he was stopped as if frozen in time. Gradually, feeling the beating of his own heart, he realized that time hadn't stopped. Someone had turned it off. Suddenly, something had turned off the lights. Perhaps a teacher on patrol saw it and turned it off. No, he didn't sense anything like that, and he didn't even hear the sound of footsteps. Well, then how did the lights go out like that? Rather, from the beginning, until he arrived at the classroom after climbing the stairs, the hallways, everything and anything was complete darkness. He took relief from turning on the lights after reaching the classroom in that darkness. In other words, until he got into the classroom, there was no light or anything of the sort. Then why, after leaving the classroom and heading to the boys' bathroom, was there a light on? If the light's on, then someone should have been using the restroom. But there wasn't anyone in here, and he didn't sense someone who forgot to turn off the light. In this school ruled by the silent darkness of the night, echoes of footsteps would echo sharply. Even in the short time he was in the classroom, he should have heard these sounds reach him. That means, with no sign of anyone, the lights had suddenly turned on. And, with no sign of anyone, suddenly the boys' restroom lights had been turned off. Back off, stop it, stop joking, Ozaki wanted to say. But with his lips quivering, he couldn't even say those words. His heart continued to tremble with its throbs, almost like it was going to burst out of his chest. His heart beat faster and faster. With a dry buzzing sound, a blinking beam shined on him slightly. Only a single fluorescent ceiling lamp in the boys' bathroom gave off its dim light. However, it continued blinking ominously. Just when he'd think it was lit, it would go off, and then with a dry sound, it would light back on again. Rather than relaxing with the lighting, that repetition stirred unease at what lay beyond. Oops, wrong way. That fluorescent light was outside the stall, because for Ozaki, who was shut up in the bathroom stall like this, he was made to realize that he was distinctly shut up inside 4 sharp corners of darkness. When did the stall door close? I found the key, went inside, and suddenly things went dark. Where's the key? I panicked and turned around and the key wasn't there. Sure, it's dark and hard to see, but the key's gone from where I saw it just now. Well, maybe what I thought I saw a second ago was an optical illusion. Can something that stupid even happen? More importantly, where am I? There was no mistake that this was the inside of a bathroom stall. But it's different. This place isn't the stall I just went in. This isn't the same bathroom stall at all. The urinal, the toilet paper dispenser, the color of the walls were dirty, the fixtures, the angles, and, where am I? At that moment, his ears sensed something for the first time. A sigh that couldn't be a sound. Sound so small it shouldn't reach his ears. The sound of chafing clothing. Now he clearly heard that sound that was so slight it couldn't even be called a sound. The object of that sensation, strangely enough, it was there. Right there. It was right there, but he couldn't see it. Because it was shut out behind that single door. He and the presence that had suddenly appeared were facing one another, with a single thin door between them. It's my imagination. I'll just get out of here, he thought. And then the moment he moved to put his hand on the door, this time he heard a real sigh, and his entire body stiffened with a start. Even stranger, that presence, on the other side of the door, was sobbing and crying with a meso. Who? Why? Did you just come here to cry? There are other stalls in the bathroom, right? So why are you crying in front of my stall? Go away, stop crying. Who are you, damn it? Meso. Without a doubt, those were the cries of a girl. It wasn't male. Those cries are feminine. Even though this is supposed to be the boys' bathroom. That crying of Meso began freezing the blood in his legs one by one. From his legs, he felt rows of ice stand up on his skin, and by the time they reached his head, it made him remember what he did not want to remember. Meso. You there. Please listen to my pitiful story. Ah! It's a lie. A lie. The story of Meso-san is a lie, right? A lie. It's a lie. The inside of his throat swelled up, and a suffocating sensation welled up inside him. The inside of his head began to whirl in circles, and it seemed like his eyes were going to roll back in his head. What a joke this is. What a joke. A joke. They're laughing. I'm panicking. They're laughing. This is bad. Meso. You there. Please listen to my pitiful story. That girl's sad voice repeated once again. This time clearly. Steadily. It wasn't ambiguous like something that could only be heard inside his head. It mingled with his heart's palpitations and the dry flickering sound of the blinking fluorescent light. It was a voice he felt distinctly and directly in his eardrums. Ozaki was just about to let loose a groan in reply to that voice. Just before he does, he remembers and firmly swallows it and holds off. The newly born 8th mystery, Meso-san. The new tale of a yōkai who appears in the old school bathrooms. You have to be shitting me. This place, it can't be the old school building, right? So there's no way it would show up here. He didn't let that scream escape his mouth. Rather, like a goldfish searching for air in agony, he could only continue to open and close his mouth with a flap. It seemed like Meso-Meso-san was the vengeful spirit of a girl who was killed in the old school bathrooms. It appears when people come into the bathroom it was killed in, and it seems to ask people to hear about the time it was killed. And there are rules. When Meso-Meso-san says to please listen to its pitiful story, I must not respond. And I can't try seeing what it looks like. Until Meso-Meso-san leaves without speaking a word, I have to grit and bear it. If I break those rules, I will be killed. The only thing weak about it is its voice. Its true form is monstrous, so it will embrace me with its tremendous rotten tree trunk-like arms, crush every bone in my body, killing me. Ozaki covers both his ear and mouth with his hands. Already unable to control it with his own willpower, his right hand covers his mouth to stifle a scream. And with his left hand, he covers his left ear as if to stop Meso-Meso-san's cries from entering. Then his right ear was open. Even so, he covered it by sticking his ear up against the inside wall. Despite even that, he could not deny Meso-Meso-san's voice from permeating his ears. Ozaki-kun. That's my name! Meso-Meso-san clearly just called my name. It knows who I am. It can see me. It knows I'm in here. Why do you pick on girls, Ozaki-kun? What do you mean, pick? What are you talking about? Yukari Sakaki-chan, you've been bullying her for a long time, haven't you? How does it know about that? My punishment is at hand. This is my punishment. I should have just left it alone with a practical joke. The bullying. Would you stop it already? Oh, fuck! Without thinking, Ozaki had blurted out something that seemed like an answer. Panicked at that, he swallowed. But with the voice he seemingly blurted out, the light from the only fluorescent lamp breaking with a pop went out entirely. Huh? What? What is it? What is it this time? As if it were grating, or perhaps warping, a small sound began spreading throughout the entire bathroom. It was the grating sound of doors, mirrors, fixtures, tiles, faucets, and mirrors. It was quiet and overpowering. I was in darkness where I couldn't even see my own fingertips. But on the other side of this single door, if I didn't have this door, that overpowering creature would surely be in grabbing distance, directly in front of my eyes. This quiet, though chilling and frightening sound it's making is overpowering. Even in this darkness, he understood what was happening. Even though he couldn't see anything, rather on the contrary, he understood. Even though it was only ever so slightly, he had answered Meso-Meso-san's question. Meso-Meso-san. That girl, he could tell she was changing into something fearsome, terrifying, and grotesque. Even though all he had was a strange noise, and her presence to go on, in that darkness he could clearly tell what was happening. The evidence, well, it was no longer a frail voice. If you bully again, there won't be a next time. While spurting out tears, drool, and snot, despite everything, he held back a scream. While holding his mouth and ears shut, Ozaki shook his head over and over. While all these incomprehensible fluids dripped and leaked, he shook and bowed his head over and over. In the stall of the old school building's lavatory, in that darkness, both of Ozaki's eyes were open, and while covering his ears and mouth, he bowed his head indefinitely. With sweat and tears, the snot and the drool plopping and dribbling as if striking his head against a wall, he would continue nodding his head for all eternity. Noticing the old school building's entryway was open, a patrolling teacher took a look around, just in case, only to find him in that state. Why would he go into a place like that, at that time in the darkness all alone? The teacher was not able to find an answer he was satisfied with to that question. In the first place, he couldn't even satisfactorily explain why he would come over back to school after school was over. After all, the house key that he kept repeating was gone was right in his pocket the whole time. Spooky. The teacher also knew the story of Meso-Meso-san. If other students heard about this, they would spread rumors and the uproar would surely get out of hand. And if this awful clamor reached the vice principal's ears, it would become a troublesome fuss about who was responsible for it. That was why the teacher let Ozaki go without asking any questions. I don't know what you saw here tonight, but you absolutely must make sure you never reveal it, he instructed. Ozaki staggered, and with a gait like he still might fall over now, he crossed the schoolyard and exited the school's grounds. Staring intently at his back were non-human eyes. Higanbana-san, how long have you been there? The whole time, since the very start of your hunt. Higanbana giggled as she sat on top of the roof's fence, letting that long, beautiful, cold hair flow. Marie stared. She was seeing off Ozaki's retreating figure through the school gates just over the fence. It would be nice if you would stop bullying Yukari-chan, but... It's fine. After all, the school's 8th-ranking yōkai Meso-Meso-san bit half of his soul off as a warning. As you can see, it looks like he will stop. Starting tomorrow, I doubt that willpower to bully anyone will ever return to him. I only gave him a warning. To say I bit off his soul? After you bit and latched on so far that you left teeth marks tough of that extent? Marie's hunting has such grace and is considerably lovely, although a bit boring to me. Marie still did not quite understand what it was the yokai referred to as a hunt. However, with this, all she could do was hope that Yukari's bullying would lessen if even by a little bit. Nevertheless, Higanbana was still keeping her eye on Yukari. Marie calmed down just a bit. As though she had read her thoughts long ago, Higanbana giggled and then nimbly jumped off the fence. She really is a delicious-looking girl. That Yukari Sakaki girl. Higanbana-san. What? Could you please stop hunting Yukari-chan? You want I, the dancing Higanbana, to turn over my prey? Higanbana spoke without turning around. Marie did not turn around either and started speaking from in front of the fence. It's not that I'm ordering you to hand her over. Then you're asking me as a friend? No, that's not quite right. Then what do you mean? Yukari-chan, she isn't quite the right prey for you. Higanbana slowly turned around. Her expression was inhuman, merciless, like a frigid doll. Those eyes were more frosty and sharp than an icicle. No, they were not the eyes of something alive. Buried into her sockets were the eyes of a doll. A strong gust blew by and rustled her long hair, intensifying that ominous expression even more. Then those lips parted in a perfect arc, like a smiling crescent moon only just appearing. How lovely, Marie. You are not only just my friend, you've also managed to become a nuisance. I don't want to be a nuisance. I am only saying that Yukari-chan is not suitable as prey for you. After all, didn't you say you prefer to prey upon fragile souls who seem like they choose their own death? And you're saying that girl isn't? Yes. Yukari-chan is truly a strong girl. She managed to recover even from the sadness of losing her mother. True, she's being bullied and her heart seems to be crushed, but that is only for now. She will definitely take back her joy and stand strong again. Well then, I'll have to whisper of death to her and prepare her like a delicacy before she stands strong again. I won't let you do that. I, Meso-Meso Marie, will protect that girl. Higanbana, who had always laughed so elegantly, finally could not withstand it and howled with laughter. Can you protect her? Is there any way? Yes. If Ozaki-kun stopped bullying her, I believe his friends will do the same. Marie, you truly are entertaining. Well then, I'll let you show me for a while. Show me what Mesa Mesa Marie is capable of. With a turn, her skirt billowing in the wind, Higanbana disappears. Ozaki was already far into the dark of the night. Rather, he had disappeared into the light outside of school. Marie was alone in the darkness of the school at night. She was praying that Yukari's fate tomorrow would be changed, even a little bit, for the better. However, she would understand the next day what Higanbana was laughing about. Damn it, Higanbana, what have you done this time? Ozaki changed into an absent-minded child, and he did not bully Yukari again. However, the other bullies had not changed at all. Ozaki's not feeling so hot, so let's leave him alone. So today, let's just play around with the Sakaki ourselves. So in the end, the bullying Yukari experienced did not change at all. I wanted to believe that just by removing Ozaki I could save Yukari. But there's no way that could save her. When Ozaki's violence stopped today, that only benefited the other bullies. So in the end, what Marie had done was like putting a band-aid on a cancer patient. No, it was as if the night before never happened. Lunch break. Ozaki, as if he had lost his spirit, rested his head on his desk. And across from him, excited from having written graffiti on Yukari's desk, was the usual group of bullies. Ozaki had kept his promise to Mesa Mesa-san. Just as he had promised in the old school building bathroom, he no longer bullied Yukari Sakaki. That being said, he didn't say he would stop everyone else from bullying her. Since she hadn't remembered to press him on that, Marie felt a little guilty. But even if Ozaki had said that, the bullying against Yukari probably would not end that easily. That's probably wishful thinking. Yukari Sakaki's abuse is amusing to all of them. It wasn't as if Ozaki was happy that his followers were following in his footsteps. Ozaki was the only one not included in the fun. In that classroom atmosphere, he watched as she was bullied. It was as if nothing had changed. Now that I think about it, bullying has always been like that. People don't simply become bullies. The environment is where bullies are made. So taking away one bully made in that environment doesn't solve the problem. If I think back, even the abuse I received when I was human like that too. With just the death of Kanamori-sensei, I thought I would be saved. Even if he were gone as before, I would still have been bullied by the boys in class. The naive thought that becoming a yōkai and getting my revenge on my teacher would be my salvation was something I now understood all the clearer. Higanbana-san probably knew that. She probably knew exactly how bullying worked. That's why the fact that I believed that by warning just one bully, Ozaki, would solve anything was no doubt comical to her. I couldn't see her. She is probably in the shadows somewhere, watching me overcome with surprise like this, and giggling. Before long, after finishing their scribbling on Yukari's seat, the ring of bullies dispersed. Their number, for the time being, was 4 people. I wonder if I should call each of those 4 people one after the other to the school at night, and grant them a warning as Mesa Mesa-san in the same way I did to Ozaki. It's probably pointless. Those 4 might withdraw from their positions, but even if they did, other bullies would rise up and take over their roles. Besides, offering a warning as Mesa Mesa-san to 4 more humans after Ozaki, that was no easy feat. This was in accordance to Marie's circumstances as a yōkai. Yōkai like Marie and Higanbana don't have an inexhaustible supply of power. Essentially, when yōkai place their forms in the other world, you have to exhaust that power when intervening with that world's affairs. Higanbana said that is Yoryoku. Oh god. Representing a yokai's power, Yoryoku means exactly as its characters are written. If one is a strong yokai like Higanbana, it's natural that they would have a large amount of Yoryoku. A meager yokai like Marie naturally has a small amount of Yoryoku. Interfering with humans requires a great deal of Yoryoku. And in addition, it changes with how big the degree of interference is. If it is only a small thing like making someone listen to your whisper in a daydream, that only takes a small amount of Yoryoku. However, if you are thinking of showing yourself and making someone see your fearsome power of a yokai, it requires a large amount of Yoryoku. When Marie appeared before Ozaki in order to give him a warning, she spent most of what little Yoryoku she had to do it. There are many ways to regain that spiritual energy, such as entrusting one's body to the waxing and waning of the moon, or hunting and feasting upon the soul of a human. In the case of Marie, who refuses to hunt, the only way to replenish her Yoryoku is to give it time. If she gave a warning to each of the 4 bullies, she probably wouldn't even be able to show herself again, and she already knew that warning the 4 bullies alone would not save Yukari. Marie hung her head while biting her lower lip. Her powerlessness was mortifying, but that wasn't going to save anyone. Even so, she was a yokai. I am the one who can save her. I absolutely have to save Yukari-chan. I have to. But how? That I don't know. I don't know, but I can't give up. If I give up, who will save Yukari-chan? Yukari went back to her classroom. She noticed the scribblings on her desk, and for a moment her expression dimmed. But then she behaved like she hadn't noticed anything and took her seat. The bullies, in reaction to her non-reaction, were grinning and clicking their tongues. But I knew how many tears she was swallowing underneath that blank expression of hers. After amusing themselves, the bullies eventually left the classroom. I followed after them. I can't just stand by and watch Yukari suffer like this. But even as I watched over her, all I could do was sympathize. If I am to protect her from that formless concept known as bullying, then I've got to get a better understanding about it. So I took interest in the bullies. By observing them, I might be able to learn something. From that day on, their shadows were thickened and slightly clad with a chill. Marie understood that this was what it meant to stalk, to haunt. Rarely, students with strong supernatural senses would occasionally feel a slight unease about them. But no one saw Marie, and so she continued her investigation of Yukari's bullying from over the shoulders of the bullies themselves. Right, I think what I'll do is I will leave it here, and we will continue this another time. Because this feels like it's going to be quite a long one. So, so we'll see what Marie figures out, if anything, to do about the whole bullying thing, and we'll see if Higanbana decides to step in and do something herself. I hope I hope Yukari doesn't die or kill herself. But we never know what will happen in this. Sometimes shit just happens. But on that note, hopefully I'll see you guys next time when we can finish the story. Take care, everyone. Sleep well.